Hello, everyone. I'd like to give a warm welcome to all of you out there. As you know, my name is Renee, and I'm thankful that you've come to learn more about your health. Believe it or not, God really does care about your health. Last year, just about anywhere you look, sickness and disease were on the rise. In the United States, someone had a heart attack every 40 seconds. And 1.4 million Americans were diagnosed with diabetes. 1 in 2 people got cancer, and there was 1,958,310 new cancer cases diagnosed just last year alone, and 609,820 cancer deaths last year in the United States. There's also a rise in the number of strokes every year, gastrointestinal problems, arthritic conditions, lung conditions, lupus, multiple sclerosis, and a host of many other diseases. And the question is, why? Well, many people think that God's to blame, but is that really the case? In the Bible, God tells us in 3 John 2 that he wants us to prosper and to be in health. So if God wants us to be in health and disease is more rampant now than ever before, what's the problem? Well, there's laws known as natural laws, and when these laws are neglected in any way, the result is sickness and disease. And over a period of time of neglecting these laws, more severe diseases like cancer can set in. So last time I talked about the ways soda can destroy our health, and today I'm going to be talking about activated charcoal. Unfortunately, we live in a time when we've been trained to run to the doctor for every bump, scratch, scrape, or bruise, and in cases of emergency, sometimes it may be necessary to go to the hospital or to the doctor, but not all the time. Now, the Lord has given us simple herbs of the field that at times are beneficial. In 2nd Selected Messages 294, he tells us that. And carrying on with the quote, it says, if every family were educated how to use these herbs in case of sickness, much suffering might be prevented and no doctor need be called. These old-fashioned simple herbs used intelligently would have recovered many sick who have died under drug medication. Now, I'm not referring to, immediate surgery or life or death situations, but we're told in Ministry of Healing, page 127, that every person should have a knowledge of nature's remedial agencies and how to apply them. It is essential both to understand the principles involved in the treatment of the sick and to have a practical training that will enable one rightly to use this knowledge. And then Ministry of Healing again, page 231 says, it's not a denial of faith to use such remedies as God has provided to alleviate pain and aid nature in her work of restoration. We should employ every facility for the restoration of health, taking every advantage possible and working in harmony with natural laws. And then again in Ministry of Healing 235, it says, when the abuse of health is carried so far that sickness results, the sufferer can often do for himself what no one else can do for him. The first thing to be done is to ascertain the true character of the sickness and then go to work to intelligently remove the cause. If the harmonious system has become unbalanced by overwork, overeating, or other irregularities, do not endeavor to adjust the difficulties by adding a burden of poisonous medicines. Why not? Well, by the use of poisonous drugs, many bring upon themselves lifelong illness, and many lives are lost that might be saved by the use of natural methods of healing. That's Ministry of Healing 126, paragraph 4. And then Counsels on Diet and Food says there are many ways of practicing the healing art, but there's only one way that heaven approves. God's remedies are the simple agencies of nature that will not tax or debilitate the system through their powerful properties. And then Ministry of Healing 127 says, teach the people that restorative power is not in drugs, but in nature. Ministry of Healing 126 says people need to be taught that drugs do not cure disease. And then Jeremiah 46:11 says, go up into Gilead and take balm, O Virgin, the daughter of Egypt. In vain shalt thou use many medicines, for thou shalt not be cured. And another quote from the Bible, Ezekiel 47:12 says, the fruit thereof shall be for meat, and the leaf thereof for medicine. And Jeremiah 30:13 says, thou hast no healing medicines. So the pen of inspiration never supported the use of drug medication. We're told in 20 Manuscript Release, page 36, in regard to the book on Christian temperance, that portion that was expressed in reference to drug medication as though it was recommended by me is not according to the light that I have been given to present to the people. I must, if I made this statement, have done so in expressing the idea of working away from the use of all drugs concocted at the apothecary, which is the pharmacy. We have no use for them. We should not vindicate the use of drug medication. So as I said, I'm going to be talking about activated charcoal today. And Dr. Christopher, who was one of the most renowned herbologists to live in the 20th century, said if he had to choose only 2 herbs of all the herbs that we have, and we have lots, he would choose cayenne pepper and activated charcoal. And activated charcoal is not even an herb. So isn't that interesting? So what is activated charcoal and how does it work? Well, activated charcoal is used in water filters, medicines that selectively remove toxins, and chemical purification processes. Activated charcoal is carbon that has been treated with oxygen. The treatment results in a highly porous charcoal. These tiny holes give the charcoal a surface area of 300 to 2 million M2/G, allowing liquids or gases to pass through the charcoal and interact with the exposed carbon. The carbon absorbs a wide range of impurities and contaminants, including chlorine, odors, and pigments. Other substances like sodium, fluoride, and nitrates are not as attracted to the carbon and are not filtered out. Because adsorption works by chemically binding the impurities to the carbon, the active sites in the charcoal eventually become filled. Activated charcoal filters become less effective with use and have to be recharged or replaced. Several factors influence the effectiveness of activated charcoal. The pore size and distribution varies depending on the source of the carbon and the manufacturing process. Large organic molecules are absorbed better than smaller ones. Absorption tends to increase as pH and temperature decrease. Contaminants are also removed more effectively if they are in contact with the activated charcoal for a longer time. So flow rate through the charcoal often affects filtration. So what medicinal purposes is activated charcoal even used for? Well, I'm going to go over some remedies that are in the Spirit of Prophecy in the book Second Selected Messages, and starting on page 286 through page 291. And then if you read, you can read in that same book Sister White's personal experiences using these remedies on pages 292 to 303. Okay, the first one I'm going to tell you about is inflammation of the bowels and bloody dysentery. A rapid recovery. A brother was taken sick with inflammation of the bowels and bloody dysentery. The man was not a careful health reformer, but indulged his appetite. We were just preparing to leave Texas, where we had been laboring for several months, and we had carriages prepared to take away this brother and his family and several others who were suffering from malaria fever. My husband and I thought we would stand this expense rather than have the heads of several families die and leave their wives and children unprovided for. 2 or 3 were taken in a large spring wagon on spring mattresses, but this man who was suffering from inflammation of the bowels sent for me to come to him. My husband and I decided it would not do to move him. Fears were entertained that mortification had set in. Then the thought came to me like a communication from the Lord to take pulverized charcoal, put water on it, and give this water to the sick man to drink, putting bandages of the charcoal over the bowels and the stomach. We were about 1 mile from the city of Denison, but the sick man's son went to a blacksmith shop, secured the charcoal and pulverized it, and then used it according to the directions given. The result was that in a half an hour there was a change for the better. We had to go on our journey and leave the family behind, but what was our surprise the following day to see their wagon overtake us. The sick man was lying in a bed in the wagon. The blessing of God had worked with simple means used. Isn't that amazing? Okay, the next one is eye inflammation and bruised hands. And it says, and this is Second Selected Messages, page 294, one of the most beneficial remedies is pulverized charcoal, placed in a bag and used in fomentations. This is a most successful remedy. If wet in smartweed boiled, it is still better. I have ordered this in cases where the sick were suffering great pain, and when it has been confided to me by the physician that he thought it was the last before the close of life, then I suggested the charcoal, and the patient slept. The turning point came, and recovery was the result. To students when injured with bruised hands and suffering with inflammation, I have prescribed the simple remedy with perfect success. The poison of inflammation was overcome, the pain removed, and healing went on rapidly. The most severe inflammation of the eyes will be relieved by a poultice of charcoal, put in a bag and dipped in hot or cold water, as will best suit the case. This works like a charm. Okay, the next one is fever. On one occasion, a physician came to me in great distress. He had been called to attend a young woman who was dangerously ill. She had contracted fever while on the campground and was taken to our school building near Melbourne, Australia. But she came so much worse that it was feared that she could not live. The physician, Dr. Merritt Kellogg, came to me and said, "Sister White, have you any light for me on this case? If relief cannot be given our sister, she can live but just a few hours." I replied, "Send to a blacksmith shop and get some pulverized charcoal. Make a poultice of it and lay it over her stomach and sides." The doctor hastened away to follow out my instructions. Soon he returned saying, relief came in less than a half an hour after the application of the poultices. She is now having the first natural sleep she has had for days. Okay, the next one is indigestion. Teach nurses and patients the value of those health-restoring agencies that are freely provided by God and the usefulness of simple things that are easily obtained. I will tell you a little about my experience with charcoal as a remedy. For some forms of indigestion, it is more efficacious than drugs. A little olive oil into which some of this powder has been stirred tends to cleanse and heal. I find it's excellent. Pulverized charcoal from eucalyptus wood we have used freely in cases of inflammation. Okay, and the next one is about snake bites and poisonous reptile stings and insect bites. She says, my mother had told me that snake bites and the sting of reptiles and poisonous insects could often be rendered harmless by the use of charcoal poultices. And I, for one, can testify to this because about 4 years ago or so, I got bit on the top of my head right here. I woke up in the morning and I felt these lumps and I was dizzy and I was lightheaded and I was like, what is going on? And I thought, man, something must have bit me while I was sleeping. So I right away put a charcoal poultice on and it helped, but it didn't do the trick all the way. And so I kept doing it. I thought, well, I just have to, do a few more times. So I kept doing it, and I think I waited like a couple of days, and it didn't quite do it 100%. So I called or emailed a doctor friend of mine, and he told me to put plantain in with it. So my husband went across the street from where we lived in the ditch. There was all kinds of plantain, and he picked some, and I smashed it up and put it in the charcoal poultice and put that all across the top of my head here, and it was perfect. It worked fine. So sometimes we do have to use something with the charcoal, but that was amazing. And my vision got cleared up and everything was fine. All right, so the next one is swelling and pain on the knee from a dangerous insect bite on an 18-month-old. A charcoal and flaxseed this time were used. And on Thursday, Sister Sarah, who's a trained nurse of experience, she was Sister White's nurse, she was called to see if she could do anything for Brother B's little son, who was 18 months old. For several days, he had a painful swelling on his knee, supposed to be from a bite of some poisonous insect. Pulverized charcoal mixed with flaxseed was placed upon the swelling, and this poultice gave relief at once. The child had screamed with pain all night, but when this was applied, he slept. Today, she has been to see the little one twice. She opened the swelling in 2 places, and a large amount of yellow matter and blood were discharged freely. The child was relieved of its great suffering. We thank the Lord that we may become intelligent in using the simple things within our reach to alleviate pain and successfully remove its cause. Aren't those wonderful stories of what charcoal has done? It's just, to me, it's just amazing stuff. And I have a book on charcoal, and I've used it for over 30 years, and I absolutely would never be without it. If we travel or go out of town or whatever, and I'm not going to be close to home, I bring charcoal with me. It goes with me everywhere I go. I have used it so many times and so many things. It is absolutely amazing stuff. And there's other uses too. It can be used for pyorrhea, gingivitis, tumors, whiten your teeth, and many other things. If you want to learn more about charcoal and how wonderful it is, go to www.charcoalremedies.com and find the book titled Charcoal. Buy that book if you can. It is amazing. You won't regret it. And so now I'm going to talk to you about making a charcoal poultice. Now, the video that I'm going to post below, the link, is how to make a poultice with psyllium seed husk. Now, most people don't have that in their house. And, you know, as I read in the remedies above, you can use flaxseed or you can use olive oil. That's my go-to. But you can Google on YouTube, or you can look on YouTube, and you can find different videos to how to make charcoal poultices. But the one I'm talking about today in this video is with the psyllium seed husk. And you can buy that at most health food stores or even drugstores. So you're going to need that, and water, and saran wrap, and a rolling pin, and something to secure the charcoal in place, like an ace bandage. And you'll need a mixing bowl, of course. And you don't want plastic because the charcoal will stain your bowl. So anyway, some things you can use charcoal poultices for, as we mentioned before. Some of these are going to be repetitive: stomach and intestinal distress, inflammation, pain, infection from bacteria, snake bite, spider bite, poisoning of all kinds, absorption of chemicals, and washing chemicals and detoxifying your body. So here's how you make this poultice. You mix 1/4 cup of psyllium seed with the husk, or the psyllium seed husk, with 1/4 cup of activated charcoal. You add 1/2 cup water to 3/4, but start with the lower amount, and add a little by little as you need, so it's not too wet, and mix it for 30 seconds to a minute. Then put a piece of saran wrap on the table and do 1 piece on top and 1 piece on the bottom. So then you roll it out with a rolling pin about 1/4 inch thick, and let it sit for 3 to 5 minutes. Then you can take off one side of the saran wrap and apply it to the affected area. Secure it in place with the ace bandage. If you're using it for pain, you can leave it on overnight or several hours during the day. But if you're using it for a spider bite or a snake bite, change it every 15 to 20 minutes. Now, I'm going to also post a link below how to see this, and you can go watch it. So anyway, I hope that what you heard on here is a blessing to you and your family. And until we meet again, may the good Lord bless and keep you. And remember, God loves you, and He wants you to be in health. So eat that which is good. God bless. Bye-bye.